Okay, I just finished playing Avowed from Obsidian, and I have some quick thoughts I want to share about what I think of the game. So overall, I just give the verdict right now, which is I think the game is good. It is. I think it's not the best work Obsidian has done, but it is still a good experience. It's still a fun time. It's just not as big of a masterpiece as sometimes you may expect from Obsidian. For instance, if you're familiar with their Solani Vegas, or their, to me, their Outer Worlds is also fantastic. I think the Avowed falls a little bit short on those expectations. I didn't find it as enjoyable as Solani Vegas or Outer World, but overall, it's still a very good time. So let's break it down a little bit. So for me, the narrative experience was not quite as strong as previous entries because here I don't feel like you make as meaningful of a decision as you could. Um, as in, it's sort of like a binary approach where you can either help one side or you can help the other side. Whereas I feel like in New Vegas, there are a lot more paths to take in solving problems other than just a binary choice. But I say it's still good to have a binary choice because a lot of games doesn't even give you that. But it just compared to what Obsidian was able to do in the past is not quite as diverse. And the characters also didn't find as compelling. Uh, Later in the game, I was kind of having some difficulty picking who to travel with, just because honestly, none of them are super interesting and that I want to travel with, which is not a good sign because when I was playing Baldur's Gate 3, I also had a similar difficulty where I had a hard time picking who to travel with. But the reason in that game is because every character I felt is interesting, and I want to hear what they would say or how they would interact with particular quests. Um, I want to see all their reaction, basically. That I was having a hard time picking them. But here, I was having the opposite problem where I kind of don't care about any of them. So it doesn't really matter who to pick. So that's not great. Other than characters, I think the combat in this game was also okay. I think in the trailer they released, it was there was concern about whether or not the combat looks kind of too flimsy. I think they delayed the game and they fixed it. And from my playing this game, I think melee combat is actually pretty decent. It has some impact to it. It has all the basic functionality you expect from a action a style game where you have a charge attack, you have a normal attack, you have a block, you have a parry, you have a dodge. So these are all fine, right? It works, and the combat feels impactful enough. With that said, there's nothing too crazy about it, and the enemy variety was also just okay. You are for the most part gonna just be fighting either a human being, a skeleton, or a bear, or some kind of mushroom monster, um, or some kind of elemental being. And that's kind of it. I kind of wish there was more variety, but it's not, it's not a big deal because since I think the combat is not the biggest focus of this game. So I don't know. I think the world building would be. I think it's okay, but it may be because I'm not super into the Pillar of Eternity universe because this game is based on the Pillar of Eternity, and I've played Pillar of Eternity. I haven't finished them, but I do have some understanding of some different factions and the different gods it's in this world. But still, sometimes it does go a little bit over my head how deep you delve into things. But I said it's still usually manageable because they will in a dialogue when they throw you a jargon, they will actually allow you to sort of inspect and see what they actually means. But sometimes it gets a little bit complicated and makes me dreary a bit. So yeah, so the combat is okay, the dialogue is okay, the uh, character is okay. I think the strong suit of this game is actually in exploration. Weirdly enough, it's kind of like I had more fun playing it as like a Zelda game than a Obsidian game, because in Obsidian games I'm looking for decisions and role playing opportunities, whereas here we don't actually have that much. You can't really be who you want. You're still treading a more or less linear path with some limited decisions. So, but exploration is actually quite nice because, first of all, the game is using Unreal Engine, and it shows in that the game world looks very good. The characters look very good. With that said, they do have a kind of like a semi-realistic, but also kind of anime Disney-like vibe to it. It's not going for the realistic vibe, which is okay. But it still looks very detailed. And the environment also looks very good, and the environment design is very varied. There are different landscapes, different faunas. So overall, quite a pleasure to explore. And the level design is quite interesting, where you have, cleverly hidden puzzles for you to find different ways to proceed and to find treasures that are hidden behind some of these puzzles. I think those are cool. And I think one thing I do like about this game is how it's very easy to basically respec. It's very easy to change your build because it only costs a little bit of money. You can do it at any time. So I was able to experiment with a little bit of melee build, a little bit of range build, a little bit of magic build. So that I think that's quite cool. And I wish other game would do as well, just to make it easy for you to not lock in with a particular path, because you made all these choice elements part of your game, right? Why not have the player experiment with all of them and see what they like? So I think that's one good thing that like this game has going for it. But one thing dragging it down is the fact that the upgrade materials for the weapons and also for the armors, at least in the early, I would say 2/3 part of the game is, or I mean, maybe even 3/4 part of the game are not that much, are not super abundant, to the point where, although you can change your build a bunch, it's actually kind of hard for you to, consistently level all the equipment that you got to your character's, relative power level to be effective, because you just don't have as much upgrade material as you would want. So that's kind of a conundrum, because, I can change my build all I want, but my weapon is super weak, then it won't be as satisfying. So you're still kind of locked into one or two builds. So that's kind of a shame, I think. I wish they would give more upgrade material or make it less expensive to upgrade those. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to say. I think overall it's a good game, especially on Game Pass. I've played on Game Pass, and it only costs, like $12 to have Game Pass a month. So effectively, this game is $12. And also, I don't see any reason why you would go back to the game after you finish it, because it doesn't really have a lot of branching paths or playabilities or interesting, new builds that are so drastically different that they're so fun. Right. So it's mostly a linear experience, and they'll be done after you finish it. And for $12, really, I cannot complain. Right. I think I did most of the activity in the game. I finished probably 90% of the side quests. And I think it took me maybe 40, maybe 50 hours. And 50 hours for $12, it's quite a good deal. It's very hard to find entertainment as cheap as games, especially if it's on the Game Pass. So overall, I recommend it if you are, especially if you're into Pillar of Eternity universe. I recommend it. If you're into this generic, in a fantasy-esque game with a little bit of action element to it, I think you'll have a good time. And it's pretty cheap, so it's the cost of making a mistake is not high. So that's my thought on the game. See you next time.